What's up, guys? My name is DJ Swivel, and on this week's episode of Story Time, I'm going to be sharing with you the story of how I helped JayZ write a Grammy-nominated verse. Can you believe it? But before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, do what you got to do. Let's get into it.
DJ Swivel, DJ Swivel, don't you tell the story, please. DJ Swivel, DJ Swivel, don't make it cheese.
What's up, guys? I am DJ Swivel, and we are back for another episode of Story Time. This episode is a really cool one. I have to say, one of the more memorable moments in my career. Certainly a story that I like to tell friends. And this is the story of recording JayZ on his verse on Rihanna's Talk That Talk. I have always been a huge JayZ fan. I sort of fell in love with Jay's music on Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. Then I went back and, of course, have always kept along with all the new music Jay drops. And I did tell the story of first meeting Jay in an earlier story time, and that was a really special moment for me. But I've actually had the privilege to work with Jay a number of times, and every single time I hang out or am with Jay, I learn something new. And this story is about never being too old to learn, right? Never being too experienced to learn. And so let me set up how I even got in the studio with him. That year, I had been working with his wife, Beyonce, for pretty much a whole year working on her album 4. And at some point in the middle of that project, she asked me one day, she's like, hey, Jay needs an engineer for a few days. Can I pawn you off to him? She was going to take a few days off. She may have had some events or photo shoots or some other things, but she wasn't going to be in the studio those days. And I guess, somehow, I don't know what happened between their conversation, but I guess Jay asked to borrow me for a few days. So I, of course, was very excited about this. Of course, I had spent plenty of time with Jay, especially working with B. He would come to the studio, but I had never actually recorded him. I had even worked on Jay albums, but it was usually like working with the producer and or on the mix side of things with Duro or things like that. Had never actually recorded Jay in the studio. And I had always heard these stories. We've all heard the stories of Jay, like, doesn't write anything down, just sits in the corner. And so I was very excited to learn for myself. And so B asked if I would go ahead and work with Jay for a few days, and I said, absolutely, of course, I would love to. So I think it was the next day that I went and worked with him, and we were at Jungle City Studios, and I can't remember, the first song we recorded actually never came out. It was I think it ended up being a Meek Mill record, or maybe it did come out or it leaked or something, and then I did a second day with him, and we worked on the Rihanna song the second day. And I remember Jay had a few people come in the studio. He had a couple friends with him, and we were watching college basketball. I remember we were watching college basketball. And he was just kind of watching sports, and he would have the beat on in the background. And this was, again, Talk That Talk by Rihanna. It was produced by Stargate. And he's just kind of listening in the corner and like nodding his head, but mostly focused on the basketball game, to be totally honest with you. And we talked a little bit about sports and a little bit about basketball, and I was asking, like, how come there's so much more highlights in college basketball? Coming from Canada, college athletics, collegiate level athletics is not really a big thing in Canada. So I was like, what? Why is there so many highlights in college basketball? He's like, well, they're not as good, so you just get more dunks and more like crazy plays. But so, anyways, we were getting into the sports side of things. He had about 4 people there. They're having a few drinks. They're hanging out. Nothing too crazy, but the music's on. And at some point in the middle of watching the game, you saw Jay sort of separate himself from the group. He wasn't really talking to anybody anymore, and he moved off to the side. He got a chair and went off to the kind of the corner of the room in a way. And he's still watching the game, but I just see him start scratching his head a little bit, and you can kind of see him mumbling a bit. But I'm sort of just trying to manage the session, and there's a few people in there, and also it's still, I'm nervous to record Jay, so I'm not paying too close attention to what he's doing, but I do glance over and just check in every once in a while, make sure he doesn't need anything. And yeah, I just noticed him start scratching his head and kind of doing a little bit of this and mumbling a bit. The game's on mute. He's still watching it, but the beat is just playing over and over again. And at some point, he says, I'm ready. So, okay, cool. Everyone quiets down. Actually, I think a bunch of people then left the room. They were in the lounge. And Jay goes in. In fact, I think at that moment when he first recorded, it was just he and I. I think maybe everybody had stepped out into the lounge. So he gets in and he records the verse right off the top. And I can tell you right now, he did not write anything down. He was clearly memorizing it in his head. And when he was ready to record it, he went in. So we do a first take. He's got most of it there. We do maybe a second take. And then he's like, all right, punch me on this line. We fix a few parts. And then he comes back in. He's like, all right, let me hear it back. So we play it back. And he's like, you like it? I was like, in my head, I'm just thinking, why is he asking me if I like this? I mean, yes, you're JayZ. Everything you do is great. So I'm like, yeah, it's dope. And then he's like, all right, I want to try another idea. So I was like, okay, cool. So he's like, all right, just play the beat a little longer. So I play the beat, and he starts reworking the idea. And his initial idea had like a number of curses in it, and was actually maybe a little more vulgar than even the version that went out. But so he works on the new parts. He goes back in, and he kept some of the original, but changed like a few bars, like maybe 4 or 5 bars throughout the thing. Change it, comes back in, sounds great. He does a couple ad libs, and then he's like, all right, let's listen back. So we listen back, and then he asked me, he's like, which one do you like better? I was like, I mean, my immediate response was, I mean, they're both great. I like them both. I think they're both awesome. And he stopped me. He's like, I'm not asking you so you can tell me they're both awesome. I am asking for your opinion. Which one do you prefer? He was very clear about this. And I was like, oh, he actually wants to know. This is, because in my head, I'm just thinking, you don't need my opinion about anything. Like anything, especially let alone rapping. But he asked for my opinion. He's like, which one do you think is better? And I made a choice. And I said, well, this one, one was a little more tame and one was a little more vulgar. And it ended up being like sort of a combination of both. But I said, well, the song is called Talk That Talk. It's really about, talking smack to, just talking yourself up. It's a very braggadocious song. And I said, you should go with the more aggressive one, I think. He's like, yeah, I agree. And then he made a few adjustments and kept most of the aggressive parts and maybe swapped a line or two out that didn't really fit, that he didn't feel fit as well. But, he wanted that confirmation that his idea, the concept that he was going for was the best idea. And, I thought a lot about that day, over the years. And for someone as accomplished as Jay, as great an artist as he is, and he's one of the greatest we've ever had in many ways, and not just in rap music or hip-hop music, but in music in general. For someone like him, at his stage in his career, at his age, at his experience level, to continuously ask for people's thoughts and opinions and direction tells me that he is always learning. Every single day that man wakes up, he is learning something new, and he is open to learning. He is receptive to new information. And that's a habit that I think all of us fail at some time in our lives, especially as we get older. We tend to get, hardened in our ways. And it just goes to show that if you want to be great, if you really want to be at the forefront of whatever it is you're doing, you have to be open-minded. You have to be willing to learn. And everybody is a teacher. It doesn't matter what your skill set is, because everybody approaches a problem or an idea or a concept from a different angle, from a different set of experiences. And those experiences that we have growing up, they're going to influence every single decision we make in life. And so it's always a good opportunity to learn from other people's experiences. If you haven't experienced that, somebody might be able to give you some insight or share with you a nugget of information that you didn't realize was available to you simply by asking. And that's what I took from that session with Jay, is that he was always willing to learn. He was always willing to take other people's ideas because those are going to either reinforce his or give him a new perspective, which is going to encourage him to change his ideas. And so, that I jokingly say, I helped Jay write a verse. Really couldn't be further from the truth. But I did offer him some, my opinion on two directions that he chose, and he agreed with me. So, it's a lesson I take with me all the time. I'm constantly learning from that guy from afar or even at close at times. And it's been a privilege to do so. So that is my lesson for you guys, sharing something I learned from Jay. Hopefully it helps you in your own life and your own careers as you push forward in music or otherwise. So that's story time for this week. Until next time, I'm DJ Swivel. Peace.